5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
In the spirit of respect, authenticity, and reconciliation, the town of Slave Lake honors and acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional lands of Sawridge First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. Councillor Ferguson?
Motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. Councillor Hughes.
I move to accept the meeting minutes from the June 19th, 2024 regular meeting of council as presented.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. Okay, we will move on to the public hearing. And so then, here we go. I declare the public hearing open and state that the hearing is held pursuant to sections 230, 606, and 692 of the Municipal Government Act 2000 as amended. The purpose of bylaw 12-2024 is to amend the land use district map of the land use bylaw by bylaw 22-2007 by redistricting as follows. Lot 12, Block 1, Plan 212-0278 from CDC Council Direct Control District to BI Business Industrial District and I Institutional District. Part of Lot 4, Block 3, Plan 912-3753 from CDC Council Direct Control District to I Institutional District. Lot 7 and 8, Block 8, Plan 1915 HW from CDC Council Direct Control District to C1 Downtown Commercial Mixed Use District. The notice of the hearing was given in writing to the applicant, the assessed landowner or landowners and adjoining landowners and the planning and development officer. The notice of the hearing was advertised on the town's website from June 5th, 2024 to July 2nd, 2024. Presentations are to be brief and to the point. The order for hearing presentations will be the planning and development officer, those in favor of the bylaw, those opposed to the bylaw, and any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard. All persons giving presentations are to state their name and address. And just to confirm that we can also allow questions from members of council after each presentation and allow for rebuttal from persons having given presentations. So up first would be the planning and development officer.
Good evening, your worship and council. I'm presenting on behalf of planning and development tonight. So as stated, the purpose of this report is for council to hold the required public hearing and consider second and third reading for bylaw 12-2024. So some background: on October 3rd, 2023, bylaw 19-2023 received second and third reading. This bylaw put into place regulations for shelters permanent and also rezoned 4 parcels of land to CDC, Council Direct Control, to facilitate the potential development of a permanent shelter. Council underwent extensive consultant facilitated public consultation and engagement to select a permanent location for a shelter. At the May 14th, 2024 council meeting, council selected 901 Caribou Trail Northwest, the current location of the shelter temporary, as the final location for a permanent shelter. On May 21st, 2024, the development permit approving the establishment and operation of the shelter was issued. Bylaw 12-2024 will rezone those parcels not chosen for the permanent shelter back to the zoning that existed prior to this process beginning. The Municipal Government Act states, in accordance with section 230, subsection 1 of the Municipal Government Act, Town Council must give bylaw 12-2024 first reading and hold the required public hearing prior to passing a resolution. However, as bylaw 12-2024 was put forth by administration, council could amend or defeat the bylaw prior to holding public hearing. Bylaw 12-2024 received first reading on June 4th, 2024. Municipal Planning Commission. The Municipal Planning Commission reviewed this application at its June 17th, 2024 meeting and have indicated that they support the bylaw. To date, we have received 2 written responses, one from the MD of Lesser Slave River, wherein they indicated they have no objections or concerns, and one from Sid Dahlgren with objections. You can see the attached letter, some discussion. Bylaw 12-2024 amends the land use district map of the land use bylaw by rezoning the above noted lots from CDC Council Direct Control District back to the previous existing zoning for each parcel. Schedule A of the amending bylaw provides the map references, and in addition, location maps have been included and attached to this report. The subject parcels are lot 12, block 1, plan 2120278, which is 7th Street Northeast, adjacent to the recycling center. Be rezoned from CDC to Business Industrial District and Institutional District. Part of lot 4, block 3, plan 9123753, 305 6th Ave Southwest, which is the former daycare site. Be rezoned from CDC Council Direct Control to Institutional District. Lot 7 and 8, block 8, plan 1915 HW, which is 213th Ave Northeast, the former health clinic site, from CDC Council Direct Control District to C1 Downtown Commercial Mixed Use District. So your options are you could give bylaw 12/2024 the second and third reading, or you could amend or defeat the bylaw. The public hearing was advertised on the town's website and various social media platforms. In addition, referral letters were sent to adjacent property owners. Our recommendation is that bylaw 12/2024 will complete the project undertaken by council by returning those parcels not chosen for the permanent shelter to the zoning that existed prior to the process commencing. As such, administration recommends council give bylaw 12/2024 second and third reading. And that's the report to date. The person who provided a letter in objection, I believe, thought we were rezoning the site for the purpose of a homeless shelter, so.
Yeah, I just read the letter. It
Yeah.
appears there was just some confusion in it that wasn't aware that that wasn't the location selected.
Mhm.
Okay, any questions for the planning and development officer at this time? Okay, as I see none, I will call and forward anyone in favor of the bylaw that wishes to speak. Anyone in favor? As I see none, I would call for those opposed to the bylaw that wish to speak. Anyone opposed? As I see none, any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard. As I see none, I will declare that the public hearing is now closed. And we will move forward into the report that Joanna has just gone through.
So I've already presented the report and that's what left
Yeah.
standing is your motion.
Counselor Choba,
I'll move that bylaw number 12/2024, which amends the land use district map of the land use bylaw, be redistricting as follows. Lot 12, block 1, plan 2120278 from CDC Council Direct Control District to BI Business Industrial District and I Institutional District. Part of lot 4, block 3, plan 9123753 from CDC Council Direct Control District to I Institutional District, lot 7 and 8, block 8, plan 1915 HW from CDC Council Direct Control District to C1 Downtown Commercial Mixed Use District, receive second reading.
motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Counselor Hughes,
I move that bylaw number 12/2024, which amends the land use district map of the land use bylaw by redistricting as follows. Lot 12, block 1, plan 2120278 from CDC Council Direct Control District to BI Business Industrial District and I Institutional District. Part of lot 4, block 3, plan 9123753 from CDC Council Direct Control District to I Institutional District, and lot 7 and 8, block 8, plan 1915 HW from CDC Council Direct Control District to C1 Downtown Commercial Mixed Use District, receives third reading.
motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. That is carried. Okay. Moving on to report B.
Okay. Good evening, council. So the purpose of this report is to provide council with the results of an interview with the Fort Foundation regarding their proposal that was received in response to the expression of interest ad for Sunset Place. So background, the landowner, we're talking about the parcel of land that's owned by the town of Slave Lake. Legal land descriptions, lot 78, plan 9320620. The proposal was to consider a development concept for Sunset Place. So under the municipal development plan, the subject site is within the residential and general urban designation of the municipal development plan. In accordance with section 672 sub 4 of the Municipal Government Act, when an MR is being disposed, money can be provided in place of a municipal reserve, and the interest earned on that money must be accounted for separately and may be used only for any or all purpose referred to in subsection 2. So a little history on Sunset Place. Originally, the site was dedicated as a municipal reserve, or MR, in accordance with the report to council dated July 20th, 2005, when the Southwest Area Structure Plan was adopted in 1988, sorry. The subject lands were designated for parks and open public spaces. The 2004 Parks and Open Space Master Plan designated the site for an outdoor events site, which was aligned with the SWASP. In July of 2005, council disposed of the MR designation and the lands were rezoned from UE Urban Expansion District to R1 Standard Detached Residential District. An appraisal of the lands was completed and the lands were listed for sale. It should be noted that the cash value of the municipal reserves were not paid back to the reserve account when the MR was disposed of. As such, there is an outstanding obligation to pay. Essentially, an MR contribution consists of 10% of the value of the land or market value unless otherwise negotiated with the subdivision authority. It's also worthy of note that in 2005, the cost to extend 6th Avenue Southwest from where it was stubbed off at the first entrance to the West Side Village to Caribou Trail was 1.2 million. So this cost was a major cost factor in the financial viability of a potential residential subdivision on the subject lands and/or phase 2 of Sawridge Park Estates. In November 16, 2007, a report was presented to council where an administration reported back with respect to an expression of interest advertisement placed in the Lakeside Leader and the Journal of Commerce. No expressions of interest had been received. Council requested the matter be revisited again in 1 year. On November 18th, 2008, another report was presented to council where an administration reported back again with respect to another expression of interest advertisement. Again, no expression of interest was received. Council requested no further advertisements and once again requested the matter be revisited again in 1 year. In November 17th, 2009, another report was presented to council regarding interest in the subject lands. Council decided at that time not to re-advertise. Once again, in November 2010, council directed administration to advertise an expression of interest ad. That was done and no interest was received with respect to the lands. In May 2010, a local development group inquired about outstanding obligations with respect to the adjacent Sawridge lands. The developer further indicated that they would pursue negotiations with Sawridge regarding their parcel as the town's parcel was much more difficult to develop. In February 2011, council directed administration to bring back a report with potential options for development of the subject lands. In May of 2011, a portion of Slave Lake was destroyed by wildfire. In order to provide a site for emergency housing for those residents who had been displaced, the lands were rezoned from R1 to council direct control. The subject lands housed emergency trailers for approximately 5 years, after which time the lands were rezoned. The west portion to R3 high density residential district and the east portion to R1 standard detached residential district. In and around 2014, the infrastructure for Fournier Place subdivision was completed. During the development of that residential subdivision, the province of Alberta paid for the cost to service the subdivision as well as extension of Main down 6th Avenue, completion of the 6th Avenue Southwest Collector Road, and the extension of a sanitary sewer main from the north. As such, the major cost factors that have been inhibiting further development in that area were dealt with. Further, as the province paid for these costs, there were no developer contributions owed by future developers for any of that infrastructure. In August 14th, 2018, council considered another report from administration wherein they explored options to develop the subject lands as an outdoor events fairground site and a campground or residential subdivision. The report was accepted for information. Existing services. So the town removed all existing services to this site, which were installed for the emergency trailers with the exception of 4 hydrants. Essentially, there are 2 6-inch main water lines connected from 6th Avenue Southwest, which are connected to the hydrants looped on the site. All other services, sewer, gas, power have been removed. The planning and operations department are aware that the drainage on the south end of the subject lands in Sawridge Park Estates phase 1 and 2 makes its way around and partially through Sunset Place. Further, a detailed geotechnical report was prepared for the lands in Fournier Place. That geotechnical report restricted the development of below grade foundations, i.e. basements, due to high water table. The planning department suspects that both the drainage and in and around Sunset and its proximity to Fournier may require the same development restriction for at least a portion of the site. The planning department is recommending a detailed geotech report be prepared to determine if there are any issues or concerns. So for discussion tonight, on February 20th, 2024, administration presented to council with a report providing two concepts and updated costs associated with those concepts. Council accepted the report as information and directed administration to prepare and advertise an expression of interest. February 26, 2024, the attached expression of interest advertisement was posted on the Alberta Purchasing Connection or APC site, as well as the town's website, social media platforms, and Voyant. An ad ran continuously from February 26 to April 16th, 2024. To date, we have received one proposal from the Fort Foundation in partnership with GS Concepts, which is attached. The proposal is to create a vibrant cabin-style living community that promotes a balanced lifestyle close to nature. The community would include a variety of residential options, a man-made lake, extensive trail systems, community park, clubhouse for events and gatherings, and a farmer's shop offering locally sourced produce and goods. Residential use would be a mix of single-family cabins and townhouse cabins designed with rustic aesthetics and modern amenities. There's some details regarding the financial overview of the project for a total budget of 24 million. The proposal submitted allocates approximately 4 million for infrastructure, not including a contingency of 1.75 million, which appears to be for both construction of the infrastructure and developments within the subdivision, so i.e. houses, townhouses, clubhouses, farmers shop. The proposal suggests a budget of $500,000 for trail and park development and 1.5 million for the man-made lake stormwater pond for a total approximate 6.25 if you allocate the entire contingency to the infrastructure. The proposal provides a financing strategy utilizing funding sources such as public-private partnerships, grants, and pre-sale of units. The proposal also indicates a revenue stream from amenities such as the farmer's shop and clubhouse. That said, the proposal doesn't provide cost estimates for operating these facilities, including building maintenance, utilities, staff, and building replacement. So results of the interview with Fort Foundation. So during the May 21st, 2024 council meeting, administration was directed to reach out to Fort Foundation to discuss their proposal in depth. On June 3rd, an interview was conducted over the phone with Fort Foundation, and the following results are of that discussion. So in regards to who is Fort Foundation, so the mission of the Fort Foundation is to empower low-income individuals and families to navigate the complexities of the legal system for family, civil, immigration, and criminal law. Our community-driven programs provide free support, information, advocacy, resources, and referrals to increase access to equitable justice. Discussions with the Fort Foundation revealed that their focus and experience, in addition to what is stated in their mission statement, has been on housing the homeless. They have, however, recently noticed that due to recent economic changes or challenges, that there are a lot of people in lower income brackets that are experiencing difficulties securing housing, and as such, recognize an additional need that they would like to address as well. The Fort Foundation indicated that they have staff capable of subdivision planning, landscape architects, engineers, building trades, etc. The Fort Foundation has worked on various projects in both England and Orlando, Florida, which included building houses, apartments, and a transition housing development, which involved the redevelopment conversion of a motel for the homeless. The most recent development was completed in 2022 in Florida. The proposal received indicates that the Fort Foundation works in partnership with GS Concepts. The interview revealed that GS Concepts is a new company that they are currently in the process of registering. Some of the staff employees of GS Concepts have worked with some of the staff employees of Fort Foundation on the past projects in England and Florida. The Fort Foundation has not completed any projects in Canada. They are currently working in the city of Leduc and may be preparing a sustainability study for them, although they have not been engaged to do the work yet. If the project goes forward, they would be involved in the construction of homes only and not the development of land. The Fort Foundation would like to work in partnership with the town to support this project and secure funding. The proposal is for a conventional subdivision where lots would be developed and then homes built on the lots and sold. The Fort Foundation is aware of funding sources in Florida and England for infrastructure and home construction. They are aware of CMHC funding for affordable housing in Alberta and Canada. They indicated they were aware of funding sources in Alberta for infrastructure construction, however, did not cite which grants or sources they would be. The Fort Foundation is working with a realtor and have indicated that they have a contact that they have worked with before, who has some preliminary interest in the project. In terms of the clubhouse and farmer shop, the foundation has seen the clubhouse and farmer shop concept work in Florida. The farmer shop is a development she cited has 140 acres of crops to support the farmer shop. The concept is called Freight to Farm. I did advise that the town of Slave Lake is not an agricultural community, i.e. forestry and oil and gas are the main economic industries, and that in agricultural operations or farms are situated anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes away, and that these operations consist mainly of grain farming and livestock operations. There are a few smaller garden operations that may be able to provide some of the inventory necessary for a farm to table type concept. The Fort Foundation indicated that they would need to explore these concepts further, including conducting community engagement with local farmers. In regards to ownership and operation of the clubhouse and farmers shop. So the town of Slave Lake would own and operate both of these buildings, and as such would be responsible for the property maintenance, staffing, utility costs, insurance, taxes, marketing, scheduling events, collecting membership fees, etc. The concept in the proposal is that the farmer's shop would be self-funded based on the membership fees and items sold. In regards to housing, the Fort Foundation has not prepared a detailed concept, however, could do that. They feel that the subdivision would likely house 50 cabin-style homes, a man-made lake that would include stormwater management facilities for the subdivision and clubhouse and farmer shop. The foundation estimates that the homes would be 1,200 to 1,400 square feet and would cost about $136,000 each to build, i.e. $87 to $113 a square foot. Infrastructure costs of $5 million, so that's not including contingency, were calculated based on estimates from various individuals who have worked on these types of projects in the past with the Fort Foundation. The Fort Foundation was not aware of increased construction costs associated with Slave Lake. The contingency suggests that 1.7 million was for engineering, infrastructure, and construction, as well as buildings of homes, clubhouse, and farmer's shop, i.e. the entire project. So you have options before you tonight. Option one is council could direct administration to accept the proposal provided by Fort Foundation in partnership with GS Concepts and begin formal discussions. Or two, council could direct administration to advertise the expression of interest again in July and August 2024. In terms of recommendations, currently the cost to build in Edmonton is $170 to $200 a square foot. The planning department spoke with a local builder who indicated that a spec level house without a garage construction in Slave Lake in today's economic environment would cost approximately $264 per square foot to build. The cost to build the infrastructure for the subdivision based on the cost estimates provided by Associated Engineering is roughly 11 to 13 million. The contingency suggested would be appropriate for the construction of infrastructure of the subdivision, but not both. Sunset Place is smaller in area than Fournier Place, so developing a man-made lake that could be utilized for recreation purposes is unlikely. The storm pond that would be required and could be accommodated in that subdivision will likely be similar to the size of the storm pond constructed in Fournier Place. Although a nice concept, there isn't simply sufficient enough land to accommodate a man-made lake, 50 homes, a farm shop, and a clubhouse. The clubhouse and the farm shop will require the town to own and operate these facilities, and revenue generation suggested appears to be higher than what would likely be realized. Again, the farm shop example provided by the Fort Foundation was supported by 140 acres of cropland, which accounts for the revenue stream cited. Finally, it's not clear if the town could even support another community hall, as we already have facilities that provide these amenities, i.e. the Legacy Center. Most of the information provided during the interview was vague, and had to ask lots of clarifying questions to get the information noted above. The individual spoken with did not expand on questions asked or provide any additional information on any of the questions asked. We were expecting the proponent to sell the concept to the town, and that was definitely not the case based on the conversation. Based on the review of their proposal and discussion with Fort Foundation, it's clear that they have little to no experience in servicing a development of land itself. The vast majority of their experience is related to building of homes or conversion of an existing structure to housing. This is further demonstrated by the low cost estimates in their proposal for both the cost of infrastructure development and the building of houses, which were both at least half the estimated. The estimates provided appeared to be reflective of what it costs to build in Florida or England, or are outdated. The planning department feels if we pursue the proposal with the Fort Foundation that the town administration and town resources will need to be heavily utilized to get the project going and to take it to completion. Currently, the town does not have the expertise or resources to take on a project at that level that would be necessary, and as such, additional resources, so both financial and expertise, would be required. Finally, the purpose of the expression of interest advertisement was to solicit interest from an experienced land developer who had the resources and expertise to take the lead on a subdivision and subsequent home construction. The planning department recommends council direct administration to advertise the expression of interest ad in the summer months, July and August.
That was lengthy and detailed. Anyone want to weigh in? Counselor Hughes?
Sure, I'll get the ball rolling. Thank you for the thorough report. It was very interesting to see how many times this council has batted around the idea of development in this area here, heading back to 2007. That's definitely a long time. I think for me, this sounds like a dream on paper, but this is not exactly what I'm looking for at this point in time. I would love to see us be able to do something like this one day, but I have a few concerns regarding the report. Obviously, the lack of the fact that they haven't really done this in Canada or Alberta to speak of. I understand the concept might be working great where they have done it before, but it's just not quite the fit or, meets the needs that we have currently with the town of Slave Lake. Which is a shame. I am grateful that planning department did follow back up just to try to understand, and I don't want to leave any stone unturned. But yeah, I think in light of all of these details, I would just be in favor of renewing our expression of interest as recommended by administration and see if we get any bites here over the summer months.
I would share Counselor Hughes' thoughts on that as well. The report, while an interesting idea, I just don't think that there's been a lot of proven concept when it comes to operations in Alberta and even Canada. I think it takes a developer that's worked in northern Alberta before to understand our unique geographical needs, and especially with regards to a short growing season, with regards to a lot of our farmers. So I would like to also see the expression of interest advertised again. I don't think this is quite the right fit at this time. Counselor Gramlich.
Sure, agreed, obviously. I'll move that council accept the report as information and directs administration to advertise the expression of interest for the months of July and August 2024.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you. Next up, we have our shelter report. Ayo, if you wanted to come up here.
Good evening, Council. I'm here to present the shelter report for the duration of operation. This report provides Council with a comprehensive overview of shelter operation from its official opening on November 7, 2023 to its closure on May 22, 2024. At the Committee of All Council meeting on May 14, 2024, the Council directed administration to present a summary report on shelter operation. The town of Slave Lake received funding from the government of Alberta to operate a 20-bed shelter 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from the Ministry of Seniors, Community and Social Services. After the signing of the funding agreement between the town of Slave Lake and the government of Alberta, administration began the process of opening the shelter. This includes a site visit to the Wapiti House in Grand Prairie, consultation with three other shelters to identify the best practice in homeless shelter operation. Hiring of an experienced shelter manager to lead the hiring process, procurement and construction phases. The shelter officially opened on November 7, 2023 at 6 p.m. The initial funding provided by the province covered the operational period of October 2023 to March 31st, 2024. At the conclusion of the first operational period, administration provided detailed audited record to the province relating to the use of grant fund as required in the written agreement. The shelter operated a 24/7 model by providing around-the-clock services and support to individuals experiencing homelessness. Staff and security personnel are always present to ensure the safety and well-being of shelter clients. The shelter provides basic needs such as daily meal, shower, and washroom facilities, and on-site laundry services. Staffing, in the past 6 months, administration hired 15 intake staff and a shelter manager on a combination of full-time, casual, and winter contracts. The provincial funding allow for the hiring of 1 administrative staff member, which is the shelter manager, and 4 full-time intake staff member. The shelter operated on a 8-hour schedule, which is 3 shifts, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., and an overnight shift, which is 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. the next day. You can check the appendix 1 to see how the monthly staffing schedule works, how the schedule works. So winter staffing, due to the increased shelter usage during the winter period, administration management hired 2 additional staff members on a 2-month contract to provide support. They work from February 1st to March 31st, alternating shift from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. The shelter staff receive comprehensive training before they start working and during the shelter operation to enhance their skills and ensure effective operation of the shelter. The training is also essential for their professional development and it equips them with the necessary skills to handle a variety of challenges, de-escalation techniques in resolving power struggle, ensuring a safe, supportive, and respectful environment for all residents. The list of the shelter training offer can be found on.
Ayo, I'll just stop you there for a second. So as this report's fairly extensive, I think maybe it might be a good idea is after we come through each section, if you have any questions, now would be a good time to hit it before we go through the whole report and continue on. So if you have any questions as it relates to staffing, if not, we can maybe proceed on and just do section by section, Ayo, as opposed to the whole.
Mine isn't necessarily about staffing, but I was going to ask here, so you mentioned in the beginning that you did some visits to Wapiti House in Grand Prairie. What were the other 3 shelters that you engaged with and learned their best practices from?
So we also engage, there's one in Cold Lake.
Cold Lake?
Yeah,
Okay.
Cold Lake, there's another one in, what's the other one? I can get you all the name, but we have a contact with the Cold Lake. I'm sorry, I can get you the names of the other 3 that we engage with.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious, kind of wanting to, I guess, get the area that they're in, like, are they all in Alberta? Are they kind of similar
yeah.
towns?
Yeah, all the shelter, they are in the province that we engage in, and only the one in Cold Lake operates. So all the shelter in Alberta in Canada wide,
Yeah,
it's maybe about 5% that you see that is operated by council.
Okay.
Majority of them is by non-profit organizations. So
right. So you're
that
saying the
operate-
council or the town operating it is a unique scenario
Yeah,
with
so
these that you
most of
engage
the
with?
shelter they are operated by the non-profit organization.
Okay.
So it's only the one in Cold Lake. So I think they are under the council too. So I don't know if they're still operating now.
And are all of these ones that you spoke with 24/7, 365?
No,
They're not.
Yeah. So
None
like
of them or?
So like for Grand Prairie, like the Wapiti House, Grand Prairie, what they do is that they normally have like the night bed. So during the day, they still have kind of like another building whereby it's kind of like a holding center. You can go there, get a coffee, watch TV. If you want to do anything on your resume,
Okay.
you can do so, but they don't have like a staff that or a place that you can sleep. Except those that are intoxicated, they have a small room that they show us that they put them there during the day. But so I don't know how they operate during the winter, but like when we went there, I think around ending of October last year. So we went on a tour and all like that. So they have a separate building whereby they use for their drop-in center during the day, and they have a main building where they use for their shelter during the night. So that
Okay.
is how they operate.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's good for now.
Any
Carry on.
Councillor Trouba?
Just around the staffing, hiring process, what were the qualifications that were required for like an intake staff?
Yeah, so if I can remember the advert or post, but I think it's just high school diploma, and also during the course of the interview, we try to check to understand their experience their skills, because we have a set of questions that we develop with the HR manager to try to know. So their response will determine if it's something that we've seen someone that even before we finish the interview, he just backed out that this is not for me, because we try to make them to relax and let them know what they are going into, how the shelter operates, the kind of behavior that they might experience. So that is part of the question that we develop. So the basic line is just high school diploma and their experience, that we have people that they are currently social worker students, that they are currently in the Northern Lake. We have people that they work in other places in the social services. So their experience and high school or diploma. So that's what we're looking at. Okay.
Continue.
So how was staff performance and effectiveness evaluated during the operational period?
So normally there's supposed to be like annual review. That is the standard anywhere, annual review of staff. But unfortunately, we didn't get to that point before the shelter was shut down. But in terms, just to summarize your question, in terms of the staffing, what we normally do is that it's not 90% of the staff we hire, because it's very difficult to get a quality staff that can work in the shelter, a place like a shelter. So we try to see how we can mentor them. Being my 7th years in the industry, so I try to let them relax that it's something that they can do. And we give them kind of support from time to time until they can be independent on their own and do the job. So that is kind of performance or assessment that I can tell you for now. But we didn't get to the 1 year annual review that I've just done and try to assess their performance.
Just a bit back to that. We have a lot to getting people that are working in related areas. So what we need was to get those that we can get and just train them to be able to do the work. In terms of skill, there's not a lot to affect on sort of cleaning, handling the operation. So we're looking for skills in that area. We just wanted to get people that can just work with us, train them to be able to do the day-to-day operation of the shelter without the hope of all the tools of work by hand that wanted to get.
You're good? Hey,
Okay.
You can move on, Al. Yep.
Okay.
give me one, thank you.
Yeah.
On security, as part of the shelter operation, administration hired a contractor, GPS Security, to ensure a safe environment for clients and staff. Security personnel operated a 24/7 two shift based on 12-hour schedule. As part of their regular duty, security personnel screen all the client pat down using metal detector before entry. The following are their responsibility assigned to security. I don't know if I can jump their responsibility. Can I jump that? Registration and intake. During the shelter opening up, administration requested access to the province intake registration portal. However, the request was declined as the province is transitioning from the current effort to outcome ETO system to a new portal. The ETO is an application used for registering clients. Following this decision from the province, the shelter management developed a registration template spreadsheet with provincial approval to perform the same function as ETO system. The intake process starts upon arrival. Individuals undergo an eligibility and needs assessment. Assessment include interview and collecting personal information such as name, gender, date of birth, treaty status, if applicable, previous accommodation, emergency contact, additional relevant details. Shelter rules are provided or read to the client. Recently, the shelter staff mandated that all clients accessing the shelter to sign a shelter rules agreement form before receiving services. You can get that from the appendix 3 and 4. The shelter registered a total number of 131 unique clients, consisting of 58 female and 73 male for the entire operation period. The breakdown of these clients is as follows. Permanent shelter user 15, temporary shelter user few days in, few days out 27, shelter users have moved on to another location outside Slave Lake 76, shelter users that successfully move back in with their family or other treatment or support center 13.
Maybe we'll just stop there. If there's
Yeah.
any questions on security or registration.
Counselor Hughes.
The security firm that we did hire, do they have experience in this particular like security for shelters, or how did we find them? Just looking for a little bit more detail on them specifically.
So from my experience, when it comes to shelter security, I think the contract was signed before I was hired, but from my experience, from where I'm coming from, most of the security companies, they will always come with a proposal that they have the experience, they've done this before. They have retired RCMP, retired EPS, retired this, but by the time they start the job, they will start kind of having issue of getting quality staff as they promise. So we kind of staggered on kind of getting a quality security, but thanks to Jeff and Mattox that they try and push more before we could get people that actually experience, that they've worked on different sites before that relate to homeless shelter and all like that. But it takes us about 2 months before we could get the kind of security that we have. So at the end of the day, we're able to get the one that comfortable that the staff can work with, and they can work with the staff too. So there's difference between having security on site, but if they can work with the staff, trying to have kind of power struggle with security here and the one in charge here, and staff so like, no, I'm the staff here. So we're able to balance it after like 2 months. So
Okay.
that's what I can say on that.
So I can add, so when we were starting up this process, and Maddox can jump in here at any time, or maybe join AO at the table if you like, but so we had obtained quotes for different security providers. Unfortunately, up in Slave Lake, there's not a lot of companies that are established that to choose from, and B, that have the manpower to fulfill the requirements that essentially we were asking for security services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So as AO had mentioned, there was a period of time during the beginning of the first month or two where the security company was struggling with finding the right fit for the requirement for the job that was there. So they had some human resource issues. They had swapped out some workers for some other workers that potentially were a better fit for that sort of, environment. And so I think as time had moved on, that fit naturally was found with the security company.
Okay.
They had been used, the security company was established. They were used by other employers within the community. We even used them, I believe, for the town of Slave Lake as well, or the library as well for a period of time. They were established. They were willing, they were able to provide the services that we required. There was not a lot of other options necessarily that would have provided that service. But at the end of the day, I think we were happy with the service that they were providing, that we were asked them to do.
Okay. And then just another question kind of relating to that. So under the general responsibilities for the security, you have they're addressing infractions of any shelter rules and forward them to the shelter manager. So can you just walk me through that a little bit? Let's say that there's a scenario where one of the overnight guests is breaking one of the rules. In that scenario, depending on what it is, security either gets involved or they just make a note and then it gets forwarded to the manager to address later. I'd like to know, I guess, a little bit more process.
So if it is something that so one of the things that I try to train the staff most is de-escalation, which is the number one skill you need to have. Like, even if the client is like 10, you need to know the right word. You need to when to keep quiet for them to voice out their anger. So if it's a situation whereby they are unable to de-escalate the client, or to like, oh, you need to step outside to go take a cigarette or get a fresh air. If it's getting out of hand and the staff and security can stop or curtail the situation, the best thing is they call the RCMP next. So we don't really take kind of chances like, oh, maybe 15 minutes, 1 hour, and they keep going. No, if you try all the skills that you can use and you're not getting the desired result between the client and the security and other staff, the best is to call the RCMP to come and deal with the situation. So they will come to use the force. Sometimes they will arrest them, put them in the van, even if they're going to release them, but like they need to take them from their property at that moment. So the next we do is, but the force is to engage them first, try to understand what is going on, because we can't sacrifice one person, the whole shelter time they are sleeping because of one person. So if you can de-escalate them, don't get involved. So, and this, our security, they can't use a force. They can't use excessive force on any client because is part of the contract they serve. So the best is call the RCMP. When they come, they will know how to handle the situation.
Okay. Okay. Carry on.
That's good. Continue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Daily operation summary. So daily tasks include but not limited to floor cleaning, mat cleaning, bedding and laundry, organizing the shed, dishwashing, meal preparation and servings, conducting programming, conversation, de-escalation situation, documenting case notes, data management and storage, cleaning the washroom and shower, connecting with the following up with other services and service provider, assisting client filling out forms, providing transportation to select a location in town, Friendship Center, Butter Support Office, library, pharmacies, and all. Meals. The shelter provided 3 meals and snacks daily in an AHL inspected kitchenette. Breakfast prepared by staff and served from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Lunch provided by the local restaurants, also provided by staff sometimes. The lunch runs from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Dinner is also provided by local restaurants and also sometimes prepared by staff. On selected days, it runs from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. The shelter also serves snacks in between mainline during the operational period. So we serve a total of 2,131 breakfasts, 2,295 lunches, and 2,668 dinner. Meals were staffed to all registered shelter user. Client must complete registration before receiving a meal. Some of the challenges faced with meal preparation and related logistics include space constraint that prevented the shelter from installing stove for cooking and funding, which is limited, and ability to prepare meal on site. Any question on meal? Any question on meal?
Not right now.
Keep going. Thank you.
The shelter rely on patronize many local restaurants during the operational period where necessary, prioritizing quality and affordability. The following local restaurants provided meals: Surrey Travel Center, Truck Stop, Alimo's Pizza, Subway, Soul Food, Domino's, KFC, and Pizza Hut. Chester staff would like to sincerely thank those restaurants who participated in providing shelter clients with high quality, nutritious meal. We can see the Appendix 5 for our meal plan calendar. Grocery runs were conducted twice weekly. The shelter patronized local grocer in town. Shelter had an online account with Walmart, which served as the shelter supplier for bulk grocery. Other stores include Sobeys, No Freeze, Dollar Store. The shelter van was used for grocery pickup. The shelter began operation without a shower. During this period, shelter staff provided transportation twice a week to the Friendship Center, specifically for shower services until a shower was installed in the shelter on January 12, 2024. Subsequently, a larger hot water tank was installed in February 8, 2024 to ensure ample hot water during the shower. Client must sign up and book a time slot before accessing the shower facility. In addition, they are only permitted to use the shower during the assigned time. Shower services are available between 9 a.m. and 11:45 a.m. with a maximum of 6 time slots. The shelter provided basic toiletry, including shampoo, body wash, soap, razor, towel, socks, and feminine products. Laundry, like the shower facilities, clients were required to book their laundry slot the night before with the shelter staff. Laundry services were available from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. with a maximum of 3 slots. Shelter staff would turn off the laundry breaker to ensure compliance with operating hours. Clients were required to remain in the shelter while using the laundry facility. Staff provided soap and dryer access, but clients were required to complete their own laundry. Daily cleaning was part of the staff routine task. Staff were responsible for cleaning all sweeping and common area, including the washroom and shower facility, as well as laundry, any dirty blanket. The shelter also contracted a cleaning company to conduct 3 deep cleaning in the shelter over the course of its operation. Additionally, shelter staff with the help of few clients regularly clean the shelter yard on Tuesday evening or early Wednesday morning before the dumpster pickup. Transportation, the shelter was assigned a surplus town minivan for transporting clients to various services within the town. These services include visit to the Friendship Center, Slave Lake Hospital, pharmacy, library, abortion support, MRC, abortion registry, ultrasound center, dental appointment, opioid withdrawal short appointment, and truck stop drop-off for the cold short bus services out of the community. The shelter did not maintain a sign-in sheet for staff and management visits. However, over the course of the shelter operation, various levels of management, including the CEO, directors, and managers have attended the shelter for a variety of different reasons. On a regular basis, the director of corporate services will conduct visits during the day and evening.
Maybe we'll stop there if you have any.
Continue.
Continue on.
Prior to the operation, the shelter rules were developed and approved by the administration. These rules were designed to guide the day-to-day activities of the shelter and were subject to revision throughout the operational period based on feedback provided. You can see that in appendices for the shelter rules and other applicable policy can be provided. No minor under 18 years of age access the shelter services during the operation. There was a single incident on May 18 at 6:45 a.m. of an individual accompanied by a minor trying to access the shelter. The individual was questioned by a shelter staff. RCMP was called and the minor was picked up by a family member. The individual was not arrested and he left the property afterward. As part of the funding requirement, shelter staff reported daily statistics of clients to the provincial government. Monthly reports were also provided to track recovery and housing placement, average daytime sleep number, overdoses, and other fertility. The shelter recorded 3,023 nights intake and 2,056 daytime sleep intake during the operational period. Understanding the average shelter usage figure, it is important to note that the monthly reported average shelter use is calculated by dividing the total number of nights intake by the number of days in the month. This figure does not directly represent the total number of homeless individuals in town. For instance, if client Casey stays in the shelter for 7 days, both day and night, Casey's statistic will reflect 7 nighttime and 7 daytime sleep intake. A more detailed breakdown of our statistics form can be found in Appendix 7. The shelter mandate focuses on recovery and housing, aiming to help residents transition to a better place rather than remaining in the shelter indefinitely. Many homeless individuals face addiction and mental health challenges. Entering a detox program and moving to a treatment center are critical step in the recovery journey. Supporting clients moving into a treatment center require building trust, which takes time. The wait list for a government-funded treatment center can range from 2 to 6 months, depending on the treatment required. While private rehabilitation centers offer same-day intake, they are often cost prohibitive for shelter clients. Over the course of the operation, the shelter successfully supported 13 individuals transition to detox center, treatment center, housing in Edmonton, or unification with their family. The shelter had 2 clients with treatment applications submitted and placed on wait list, and 2 seniors with housing application completed and in the final stage before the shelter closure. Other programming included providing assistance with ID procurement, birth certificate, abortion support application, AHS addiction and mental health counseling, the abortion opioid virtual dependency program, paying for cold short bus tickets for those returning to their family, and transportation to approved local services support. The following are the list of places that the 13 people went to. Incident report. As with most facilities, the shelter maintains incident reports for occurrences ranging from minor to severe. The shelter experienced various incidents, including overdoses, non-compliance with shelter rules, medical emergency, RCMP intervention, staff threats, or intimidation. Shelter staff documented every incident through daily case note and incident report form. The Town of Slave Lake Health and Safety Coordinator has direct access to the incident folder for review and follow-up. We can see the sample of that under Appendix 8. RCMP involvement. During the entire operational period, RCMP responded to 13 calls from the shelter. 31 calls from the shelter. These calls, which varied from non-compliance to staff threat to shelter disturbance, were distributed as follows. November, 1 call, December, 4 calls, January, 7 calls, February, 11 calls, March, 4 calls, April, a single call, and May, 3 calls before the closure. There was also an instances where the client threatened suicide due to non-favorable communication from a family, prompting RCMP intervention. There were 29 EMS calls during the operational period for overdose, mental health challenges, psychosis assessment, and other severe but non-life-threatening medical issues. Distribution of EMS calls is as follows. November, 1 call, December, we have 3 calls, January, 7 calls, February, 10 calls, March, 2 calls, April, 3 calls, and May, 3 calls. Fire department involvement. The fire department responded 5 times during the operational period, none of which were related to actual fire. Their responses were to assist with medical distress call. The distribution of fire department calls is as follows. In January, we have 1 call, in February, 2 calls, in March, 1 call, and in April, 1 call. Any question?
Go ahead.
So I'll use March for an example because it's the first month with full statistics. We have 16 disciplinary actions, 10 of which I could deem criminal offenses, but only 4 calls to the police. So what warranted a call to the police? Because it seems like altercations and drug use would be warranted a call to police, but we only have 4 calls with 16 incidents.
Which one are you referring to?
I think that would depend on the severity
Which
of,
one?
The whole month of March, all the incidents are listed.
Page 11.
So on page 11, there's 16 incidences. 10 I would personally call the police for, but we only had 4 calls to police. So I just want to know when we decide
incident
a
report.
police call is
On the
warranted.
incident.
On the incident.
You're saying when, so it depending on the severity of what exactly was the situation. Not every incident would require calling out CMP.
So for
There's some
example,
minor infractions that will happen, engaging staff, verbal altercation, that wouldn't require calling the RCMP. But if you have someone bringing up threatening, like we've had cases where some people were threatening to kill, probably those instances will require calling RCMP.
yeah, so let me just jump in. When it comes to the homeless shelter, there are some things that as a staff you automatically overlook. You don't even bother yourself about that because, for example, a client can yell at you now, in the next 1 hour they will come back and apologize. So that is the kind of people that we deal with. So staff don't just call and keep calling our CMP for somebody yelling. Somebody bang on the phone, they was like, okay, we're going to have a day out. So if they're living on their own without any issue, without any power struggle, we don't need to disturb our CMP on that. So that's why when I responded to Councillor Kim question the other time that the staff tried as best as possible to de-escalate the situation for us, but if it's something that they can't do anymore, that's why we call. We don't just want to be picking phone and be calling the CMP for everything. So there are some things that staff, they just take as a normal behavior. To outsider, it might not be a normal behavior, but it's something that they've seen over and over, and depending on the relationship they have with the client.
So was every time there was, I'll read one. I'll try to find a good example. Attempting to use drugs in the bathroom, would that warrant a police call? Yeah.
Yes, so if they use drug in the bathroom, and so if they we can still call the cost. Some of the questions they will ask is that are they still on the shelter or are they still on the property? But if you caught somebody using drugs or red-handed and they're leaving, we can't hold them or pin them down that the cops must come, and even if the cops show up, they're not going to do anything to them. So if they live on their own, we're going to give them a pass that they can access the shelter and for that. But even if you call the cops, they will ask, are they still on the property? If we said no, they're not going to show up because they're not coming to see empty, like no one is there for them to arrest. So we can't pin them down if they leave. But if they refuse to leave, or for example, somebody that used drug on property and overdose, we call the EMS. The RCMP will not show up because the EMS will come and take them to the hospital. So from that hospital, then they have a bar, they can come back. So RCMP and EMS, the only time RCMP and EMS will work together if there's a threat on site, EMS will not show up. For example, we said there's a stabbing, we don't have any sort, but if there's a stabbing, the protocol is EMS can park somewhere that they can see the shelter, but they will not come until RCMP come and assess the situation and give them a clearance to come in. So that's how it works. That is the protocol for EMS, RCMP. So overdose, if it is not something that is for fatality, for example, if somebody died on property, EMS will come and check and they will go. So RCMP will come and stay with the cops until the coroner officer will come with the body bags to move the body. So that's how they work. So they don't really work together. It's only EMS and fire services that really work together every time. But EMS and RCMP, they don't really work together.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing I'll probably add to that is there are measures put in place to discourage people going to the washroom and using drugs. You can't stay in the washroom more than 15 minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
15 minutes, someone is knocking on the door, asking you, what are you doing there? It's time to leave. So you can't stay there forever. So those are measures we put in place to, reduce instances of people going in there and just turning that place to a location to, use drugs.
Yeah, and finally, I will just say that we are lucky in Slave Lake that the last 6 months we didn't have no deaths, nothing. So if you know any shelter in Abata, you can ask them how often they respond to overdose and how many deaths they record, like in the space of a month or 2 months as a result of overdose or opioids. So, but like just because that we try to time them and keep knocking that it's time to come out and all like that. So, any other question?
So AO, maybe you can just continue on the overdose section, seeing as you're already talking about it, just
Okay.
maybe finish the last 3 sections there and then.
Okay. Overdose are a significant challenge for any homeless shelter. Although the shelter numbers are relatively low compared to shelters in major urban centers. During the operational period, there were 4 recorded overdoses on site and 2 off-site. That is the encampment in the bush or across the street from the shelter. The incident occur as follows. In February, we have the first overdose. In March, we have 2 overdoses, and in April, we have 3 overdoses. The shelter has a naloxone kit, first aid kit, defibrillator, the blood pressure monitor, a pulse monitor, and a portable breathalyzer kit. All overdoses were documented in the corresponding monthly CO report, see attached CO report. Shelter safety incident. There were no recorded staff assault or WCB application during the operational period. However, there were 7 reported instances of intimidation, yelling, threat, verbal abuse, and aggression towards staff. Individuals responsible for this incident received a ban ranging from a day to an entire month, depending on the severity and the past instances, if applicable. Shelter staff strictly prohibited the consumption of alcohol and the use of drugs on the premises. Any prohibited substances found on the property were confiscated and disposed of, and appropriate sanction issued. During the operational period, the shelter banned a total of 11 individuals indefinitely. These individuals were prohibited from accessing the shelter site or services due to criminal activities in town, ongoing court cases, because they had secure housing, episodic homelessness. This figure does not include those banned for non-criminal reasons, such as non-compliance or minor offenses. The shelter did not accept individuals involved in criminal activities or gang member. Any person on the ban list was unable to access the shelter services. Should a banned person attempt entry, an RCMP officer was called to enforce the ban if the client refused to leave peacefully. Yeah, I'm going to skip the list of that. If there's any question on the list of the banned individual, we can address that. Flat top encampment engagement. The shelter manager and staff learned about the flat top encampment through the social media. In response, they visited the encampment on 3 separate occasions to engage with the residents and conduct on-site need assessment, determine the required support services. The encampment housed 8 to 10 individuals living in the tent or makeshift structure. During this engagement, several barriers to moving the resident to the shelter were identified, including but not limited to the lack of couples bed, the shelter, pets not being permitted in the shelter, reluctance to be in a confined, crowded environment, mental health issue. Despite this effort, only 2 individuals were successfully moved out of the flat top area. After the third visit, shelter staff ceased visit due to limited success. Community partners, AHS. Recently, the shelter had been collaborating with AHS Mental Health Addiction, which will visit the shelter once a week. The AHS worker had gradually built rapport with the shelter clients, emphasizing the importance of relationship building for client safety and comfort. With AHS assistance, the shelter helped a banned client complete treatment application, demonstrating importance of patient understanding in this process. Big Stone First Nation. In May, the shelter team visited Big Stone First Nation in Wabasca to connect with our shelter clients' home community. During the visit, shelter staff discussed the number of clients from Big Stone Ban, the lack of support services in Slave Lake, and the client need. The Big Stone First Nation Executive Director and Manager pledged to send their crisis and mental health team to the shelter to initiate our partnership. They also provided numerous resources contact across the province. Unfortunately, their visit on May 22 coincided with the shelter closure and was cancelled. Dictors, shelter staff were also in contact with various government-funded detox and rehabilitation treatment centers across the province and had 2 pending addiction recovery treatment applications for shelter clients at the time of shelter closure. Since the shelter closure, staff have assisted in relocating 5 clients to Edmonton to access services, provided transportation to Smith for 1 client, and secure temporary accommodation with a family member, and help 2 seniors with luggage storage and transportation to Slave Lake Inn before their journey to Hyperi. As of June 5, 2024, we have accounted for 32 homeless individuals in different parts of the town, including the flat top. Staff have cleaned the shelter and its surroundings, and all perishable and non-perishable food have been donated to the Friendship Center. Post-closure communication with client reviews significant struggle in obtaining food, with many reporting extreme hunger. Shelter staff and management did not provide camping material to individuals from the dumpster to support any camping activities around the shelter or town. We consistently encourage those camping to move to the shelter to access necessary services. Although we lack resources to monitor all activities within the homeless population, we always strive to relay any gathered information to the appropriate authority. There's any question? That's for that. There's any question?
So council, attached to the report, if you've seen or reviewed, you all have a copy of, there's approximately 10, 11, 12, 11 different appendixes from the shelter monthly schedule, shelter staff training list, shelter rules, agreement form, their daily note intake forms, meal plans, shelter rules, shelter monthly statistics, incident reports, copy of the CAO reports from December to May covering that reporting period, shelter guidelines and procedures manual, and town applicable policies or procedures that would have pertained to its operation. So if you have any questions in regards to any of those appendixes or any of the operations presented above, now would be an opportunity. Otherwise, we're just looking for a motion for information purposes.
Councillor Choba.
I'm just reading the post-closure activities and future planning. And one question comes to mind. It's more around what are some of the key recommendations for future shelter operation based on the experience and challenges faced during this operational period? And I also want to target that based on security and safety, not just for shelter users, but also people around location. What are some of the recommendations that you guys, I guess I'm looking to you and administration to kind of share, what are some of those recommendations that you can give just for the future so that if there was anything close to this, it'll be managed properly.
I'll probably say, at the onset of this operation, the goal was to provide services to the vulnerable population. We tried that, we never lost focus of that. That was what we did all through. Unfortunately, it seems there was a blanket categorization of this population to mean that everybody's were involved in criminal activity. That wasn't the case based on our experience. We had people in town that were probably involved in that. But the moment we started getting direction to go through those that are, involved in criminal activities, we started, banning them, enforcing the rules and telling them you cannot continue to use the services. So I'll say we actually achieved a lot of the things that we set out to achieve. Unfortunately, it's also very difficult being the environment that we find ourselves to completely cut services away from everybody. Some of them were based on their historical experiences, were involved in some kind of criminal activities. But then we cannot blanket everybody and say we cannot provide services to everybody. So I'll say that is there. That has always been a challenge. Maybe we've learned one or two things. Maybe we probably should have started with that and saying those that have criminal activities should be completely banned. But then the thing about that is we probably end up banning almost 95% of these guys from accessing these services. So yeah, it's a very tough one when it comes to trying to provide services, be compassionate, and then you want to still enforce those rules and saying we cannot give everybody the services, especially once you've been involved in criminal activities. So that is one area that we found to be a little bit very challenging. And over time, we're very flexible with the rules. At a point, we're saying you cannot come in. We had loitering around, and then we said you cannot come in at specific period. And then when it was very cold, are we going to just lock the shelter and let people freeze and fall down at the gates? And then we said, okay, if you have to go out for services, you can go out, but you cannot come back. So we're very flexible with those operational rules, and we continue to we're making changes there.
And so also I would say for back to your question, I would say maybe for future, just in case the town want to operate a shelter, I will say maybe before the start of the whole operation, there should kind of be a agreed kind of rules how the shelter should be operate, or in terms of so it won't be like, oh, somebody complained today, then we just rush to change the rules, another person will come tomorrow. So we should kind of have a kind of common ground in terms of because the shelter rules, we change the shelter rules for 4 different times. And another thing is if people are seeking information, if people want to know fact, they should be able to ask. Shelter, we are not operating any secret closed door policy, rather than just someone just assuming and generating that information and just passing it across the town before which there are a lot of things that we just see on the social media. We just kind of smile this is not the fact. They could have easily called, could have even asked that, oh, we heard about something, we suspect something. What is the true story behind this? So I believe for future if they want to operate a shelter in the future, the council, the administration should kind of be this is the kind of model we want to operate. This is kind of rules we want to operate, and maybe if they want to post it on social media for everyone to know. Another part is time of staffing. Truth be told, and I will say kudos to all the staff that works in the shelter. The shelter staff, the intake staff, they actually they work more than what they are supposed to be doing in terms of, because a single staff, if you go back to the report, you see a lot of things that they need to complete within 8 hours. And they also need to take 30 minutes break, which I know that they don't really take. Within 8 hours, they need to complete that. And it's so interesting and so easy for people that are outside the shelter to kind of just type things and say what is going on in the shelter. But if anyone should come inside and just spend the 8 hours, I understand how easy it is to deal with a homeless individual. We're dealing with people that have mental health psychosis. We had a client that I need to go with another staff to Wabaska to meet with their parents because we're trying to get her into the mental health because she has a psychosis. And our CMP came, they said they can't do anything. That if we really need, we need to get our parent to sign a form, go to the court to get a Form A and maybe probably Form C so that they can force her to go and see a doctor and they can move her to maybe admitting or what's it called, Fort Mark Mental Health Hospital. But these are the things that staff deal with daily on a daily basis. But so there, I would say in terms of staffing, to probably maybe 2 staffing should be enough to work in the shelter. We only have 1 staffing, and then we need to do everything. And they also expect the same staff to watch what is going on 6th Avenue, and to also work in the shelter, and to also prepare some meal and serve, do cleaning, laundry, all those things. So I would say we should, in the future, we should kind of like see if it's something that we want to invite volunteers or we want to invest more on staffing so that they won't, like I mentioned, we are like 15. Some staff feel like, oh, maybe the job is too hectic for them. They want to go. While some casual staff, they don't even take a shift. So, but we tried our best. And thanks to Jeff, thanks to Matters, whenever I'm with any complaint, they are always ready to support and to provide advice. So, Councillor Ashoba, so just to your question, I would say information for future reference, we should kind of have a concrete information before we feel like we want to just put something out there so that everybody will understand, everybody will be on the same page. Also in terms of staffing and intake staff, the major work of an intake staff is to work in the shelter and not to do everything. Like they're not complaining, but they understand the situation, they understand the funding, and they're doing it not because of the paycheck, but because we want to see people moving out of the shelter. People, I always share many stories that I've experienced with people from homeless and becoming a manager in oil and gas company, sending a check back to the shelter that I was staying to just appreciate them, all those things. So to your question, we need to be on the same page in terms of rules, in terms of what we want to take, people that are allowed to stay in the shelter. We actually ban people that are committed offenses before we open the shelter. When I got to know that these guys have a case breaking in the town around September, August, I need to put him on a banning list as well. So just to please just to please some people that he's a criminal, he's still attending a court case. Once I know that your court case is related to anything crime, I don't want to know maybe it's pre-opening or during when we open, you get automatic bar from the shelter until you can sort out your case from the court and maybe they find you not guilty, then you can come back to the shelter.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yeah.
on that note, then I just want to clarify. So you're saying any of the people that you banned during that time, they can't access any services of any kind?
No, they can't access it.
They can't even be on the premises.
If they come on the premises, we ask them to leave. If they refuse, we're going to call the RCMP for them.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
we don't.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
So I just have one last question here. As I was scrolling through, I noticed you have your copies of the intake forms.
Yeah.
There's one form on here that is a list of those that have left the shelter between 11 PM to 7 AM. I was just a little bit confused by that, to be honest, because I believe that we were told when we did our open house and public consultation that people did not leave the shelter and that the door was locked at 11 PM. So I'm just looking for a little bit of clarification or maybe understanding. Is this like in emergency situations and different things arising or what?
Yeah, so for that list, I created that part when we kind of have an issue. So the plan was to close the main gate when it is 12 midnight and open it back by 12:45. But we started getting complaints from the community that there are some homeless people that don't have a phone, they don't know the time of the day, we can't just leave them outside and all like that. So we modify the rules again that, okay, we're not going to lock the main gate, we're going to lock the main office. So back to your question, if anybody can leave any time of the day,
Yeah.
if we can't stop them from leaving. But that part is that we just have that part. If you are leaving, you know that you can come back onto the next intake period. But we still need to put your name on that list so that if anything happen outside or they need a record, we can say, oh, so person or is not in the shelter. What time did they leave? At 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. Is it back? No. So that's the portion, that's the part that we have, that they can leave any time of the day, in the night, anytime after 12 midnight. So that form you're talking about is only for the 12 midnight to the next intake period. So if they leave, we need to put their name there. So if anything happen in town, we can tell them, maybe our CMP is doing investigation, can let them know that they're not in the shelter so period, or these are the names of people that left between 12 midnight and 6:45. So maybe you want to get into more investigation about where they go to and all.
So in theory, someone could leave at 3 a.m, but still come back for breakfast at 7 a.m.
Yeah, they can
Right?
come back. Yes.
Okay.
They can come back the next intake period. Yeah.
Yeah, but they could not come back before then, though. So they couldn't leave at 3 and come back at 4:30. If they left anytime between 11 and 7, they were not permitted to come back in
Mhm.
until 7 o'clock the next morning.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, looking at the shelter incidents, I appreciate what you're saying with regards to the shelter rules and that we need to agree upon them ahead of time. And ultimately they were, and I think the shelter rules adapted over time because of lessons learned. That being said, I'm not sure that the shelter rules were fully working. I just looking at the incident report here in March, there were 15 banned incident individuals. And that's not to include any health and safety incidences that we don't see that are obviously with health and safety at the town. So I've got 15 incidences, a lot dealing with, you know, alcohol and drug use at the shelter. So I feel like sometimes maybe the rules, whatever rules that we did have, which are obviously in here, there's intentions with the rules to have the shelter operational, and then there's the results. And so kind of what I'm seeing is that the rules that we did have weren't necessarily working. In my mind, this is an incident every 2 days. So I'm not sure necessarily why, but do you kind of understand where I'm getting at?
Yeah, I understand you. So like what you said, and it's just maybe I would say because of the kind of town that we have or the kind of shelter we have. So here's the thing, in -35, if somebody is intoxicated and we say the shelter is a sober shelter, our CMP drop them off in front of our gate. We're not going to leave them to die. We're going to suspend that rule and fight for their life and bring them in. So in that case, the rules is not going to be effective that because so we have people that they will go to a different place and they get intoxicated, they get a taxi and they drop them off, the taxi will go. So then it's left to us. If you call the RCMP, they're like, oh, they don't have a place to put them, they kind of food there. So I'm not going to say because I have a rules in place or because the council or the administration, they're going to fire me the next day. I'm going to let them in and put them in a site. So assuming we have another shelter, which has like, we call them like intox shelter, whereby it's just for people that are intoxicated and all like that. Once we breathalyze you and you are above 0.00, then we can move you there to go and make your noise and sleep off there. But unfortunately, we only have the 4 wall of the trailer there. So we have no option than to put them in. So we might not be able to follow that rules. So unfortunately, so that's the reason for some of the rules. So I'm just making reference to that one. Mm-hmm. There were many instances to that we might just need to weigh the rules and their safety to see. Maybe it's for us to let them in for 1 day, depending when they will be fine. Somebody that has a ban and maybe overdosed outside and went to the hospital, and by the time he's coming back, he's not feeling fine. We can't just say because we have rules in place and push them out. So we kind of like, I don't know if you understand, kind of trying to balance between life and rules. So I know it's not something that many people want to hear, but rules are in place, but sometimes there is also
Compassion.
compassion that we need to look into at some time to some certain level.
And that's why I asked the question, because the report doesn't the report's very thorough, nothing wrong with the report, but it doesn't necessarily paint the full picture. Unless we ask those questions. So what I'm hearing is that in March, due to, poor weather, some of those instances were because there was nowhere else to go. The local detachment weren't able to take individuals, the hospital weren't able to take individuals, and so that's why there were some of the violations are aggressive word for what I'm talking about, but that's why some of the rules were adjusted to, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
limited resources.
I'll maybe just jump in. I mean, and, it's no different in the shelter or any other area of our lives that have rules necessarily. Sometimes, rules are broken, right? I mean, you get a speeding ticket because the rule is 100 kilometers an hour, but you're going 130 because you're in a rush, right? So it's not necessarily because of absence of the rules, but whether it's people's perception as to, whether they're willing to break those rules or not. So, I mean, maybe potentially in hindsight, maybe there could have been stronger penalties or stronger bans, or higher fines if you're caught speeding, or, if your driveway is not the right width, maybe there's a different fine for that. But I mean, there's rules in society. And so unfortunately, this is tracking the number of times that the rules were broken. But I don't know necessarily that that's an inclination, it indicates that the rules were ineffective. I think it just indicates that people recognize the rules, we enforce the rules. I mean, this is a list of the rules that we enforced. So I think it's a success in that sense, but people still chose to, break them, still chose to cause a disturbance in the shelter, still chose to potentially consume alcohol or whatever the case may be, right? So maybe a harsher penalties might have helped maybe with a reduction in that, or maybe it wouldn't have. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just inquiring. I know we've had
Yeah.
lots of conversations with the Friendship Center and their and rules with when they were operational and the level of strictness and things like that. So I was just more so inquiring because obviously you see data on a paper, but there's usually more detail to it. So that's where my question was coming from.
I'll add just a couple of general comments to Councilor Andrews' questions, and lessons learned, right? And I think from this instance, this was an area that this administration and very few other administrations have ever really delved into, right? So I think some of our, estimations in terms of costing, in terms of, potential need or staffing and how that would, practically work out became pretty evident to us near the beginning, right? When we essentially we budgeted for staffed. And again, 100% of this was funded by the province. Just to repeat again, the shelter was not funded by any town assets or any town resources or money put towards this. But we basically estimated for one staff kind of working 24 hours a day. Didn't really appreciate that one staff potentially looking after 20 individuals inside, in addition to that long list of duties that AO has described, didn't really put that, didn't have much time to put that consideration in. And so I think in retrospect, and part of the security help happens to be tied to the staffing levels. And if we would have maybe experienced that or contemplated those potential demands that we were going to have, we might have had more staff on right from the beginning of the shelter operation. So maybe 2 staff working at a time, in addition to the shelter's security, might have, we might have got ahead of some of these problems a little quicker, right? We might have had a little bit more eyes on the situation, more eyes on, what was happening inside the shelter, some of these infractions that were taking place. So I think, in retrospect, that's, moving forward, if there is a forward for whoever is operating a shelter, if there ever is a shelter again, recognizing that the staff inside and having it properly resourced is a big help to some of these things.
Councilor Hughes,
I will make a motion to accept this report as information.
motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you guys very much. Can we take a 5-minute recess, please? Sorry, Roland. Okay, hello, Roland.
All right, good evening, your worship and members of council. The first report I have for you tonight is just to inform you of checks in excess of 50,000 that have been written from April 1st to June 30th. The list is attached to this report. In total, there have been 23 checks and EFT electronic fund transfer payments exceeding 50,000, totaling $3.2 million for the period. These payments include 6 operating expenses and 1 requisition. And the list is there for you. As well as there have been 6 payments made for capital projects. All of these are the 2024 projects on the 2024 budget list. And in total, there have been 9 payroll checks relating to payroll and benefit expenses totaling $575,000 for the period. And with that, if there's any questions.
Councilor Ferguson.
I'll just make a motion, pretty straightforward here.
Thank you.
I'll move that council accept the report of checks over 50,000 for the period April 1st to June 30th, 2024 as information.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. And continuing on.
All right, the next report we have up here is the year-to-date actual versus budgets for the period January 1st to June 30th. Again, attached to this report are 2 summary reports for council's review. One is by operating budget type and one is operating budget by department. And in the opening paragraphs here, they go into the distinction between the 2 and why I've provided those. I'm not going to go over all the line by line items. I'm just going to hit a couple of ones that I'd like to further clarify. So for franchise fees, we have a note there that has 37% of the amount been earned this year. So at the time of this report, the franchise fees are one of the only line items that are only up till May and not until June. With the June numbers coming in, they are expected to be where we expect them to be at this time. All in all, revenues for the period totaled 65% of the total revenue budgeted for the period. So areas of concern that I've noted here is advertising revenue at this point is trending significantly lower than budgeted expectations. The projected expectation under budget is about $60,000-$70,000 shortfall. As well, there are 2 outstanding receivables totaling $200,000 that remain in question for the year that have the potential, should they remain unpaid at the end of the year, to become a doubtful item.
For in advertising revenue?
No, these ones would be just general receivables.
Okay.
For other
What do
issues.
we have? That's
Nope.
$200,000 in advertising.
Separate, so
Okay,
advertising is trending a bit lower, and then we do have 2 additional items. That while there's still time in the year to collect, it's been long enough that they are on my radar and an area of concern. On the expense side, personnel costs were sitting at 45, so in line with expectations for the year. Contracted and general services sitting at 43%, slightly lower for the year overall, just because of the no snow removal in the springtime. Again, one area of concern will be the ongoing costs for additional security. Additional costs for the remainder of the year could potentially cost between $150,000 to $200,000, depending on how long council would like to extend the current security contract. Outside of that, all other expenses are fairly in line with this time period. And so I don't really have anything other to bring up. Just one note on the summary page here. While overall the operating results do not indicate any major financial concerns at this time, ongoing security costs, should they be required, could be paid through with reserves or unrestricted surplus to cover the costs. So while those could be tickets on your item, there is additional measures to pay for that and not cause us to incur amounts above the budget.
Councilor Hughes.
Just for the concern noted about the advertising revenue, I'm assuming this is the MRC electronic signs, like what type of advertising are we?
Most of this is at MRC.
MRC?
Yeah.
Okay, are we actively doing anything to encourage that or coming up with a new concept or pursuing anything?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with some of the advertising issues is the resources allocated to chasing that revenue. So it's tends to be, it's falling within our economic development department, which is cross-functioned with our communications piece.
Yeah.
And so there's been a number of projects, a number of initiatives that unfortunately chasing advertising revenue has been lower down on the priority list. So whether it's trying to solicit more advertising for some of our digital boards, I mean, we've been renewing, our advertising for, inside the MRC for the rink boards and for the, for the ice logos and stuff like that. So the major continual advertising revenue is still there. However, we had higher expectations to generate more income on some of those digital media boards, right? It's not so much MRC necessarily in the physical ones, it's the other stuff, but we just haven't had a huge opportunity to we just haven't had resources to apply to it adequately to see that revenue increase. So we had a bit of in 2023, we had administration tried a different approach to contract out some of those sales.
Yeah.
Didn't materialize with the individual that's selected, and they chose other other employment. It's been an item, on the to-do list. We just haven't had the resources to spend.
Yeah, that's why I just kind of wanted a bit of an update on where we were at with that, because I know it's something that council has wanted to pursue. So I was just curious where that kind of landed and why this would be happening right now. Thank you for the update.
Counselor,
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
there was a slow hand raise.
I'm just gonna make a motion that council accepts the actual versus budgeted reports as of June 30th, 2024 as information.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you, Roland.
Roland, while you're still sitting here, just give you and your team a shout out for the last 2 weeks. I know you guys have been working hard on the property tax season stuff, and that's finishing up today. So give your staff a high five from council.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Go team.
I wanted to keep you an extra 15 seconds, because why not, right?
He's like, let me out of here. Okay, question period. Council, anything for administration? Counselor Hughes.
Yeah, so I had a question from a resident this weekend. And it's not necessarily town related, but it's a process question for you, Jeff.
Sure.
So some maintenance is desperately needed along Highway 88. Shocker. There's a few really big potholes though that are causing some issues when you're turning to head south back to town at the Sawridge area there. There's also a really large one when you're going to head north to kind of go towards the Sawridge from 6th Ave Southeast. So there's a few problem spots that are getting quite large. And so I'm just wondering if the town can submit some sort of request and just checking with the province or the contractor on maintenance, or if this is something that we need to ensure residents do and just kind of looking for, process and where to direct people. Because I also agree with this resident as well that they are getting quite large. So
Yeah, so the responsibility is provincial to repair.
understand.
I will say that they are in the midst of a transition between service providers, so contract service providers from NCOM to La
Right.
Prairie Group. And so I know that during this period of time and this month or month and a half, there's some transition happening between those operations. And so
Okay.
I could definitely have operations we have a direct line to transportation at the very least. So
Perfect.
we can put a request in or put a bug in their ear if they're not already aware of those issues or incidents that,
Yeah.
we're receiving some complaints from it. I mean,
I would love to be updated if the town is able to submit something, hey, could you just monitor these first 3 kilometers from Highway 2, towards north? That would be wonderful just for residents and people that are driving those roads right now. They're getting quite large and I don't want to see something happen to, a
Absolutely.
resident or tourist alike. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, no, that's not a problem.
okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, moving through, we have no correspondence. So State of the Lake. Counselor Moallem is absent this evening, so Counselor Hughes will be taking his role.
I kind of feel like Counselor Mollum tonight. I'm talking a lot, hey? Just kidding. I love him. I would like to give a shout out to the town of Slave Lake, especially the Community Services Department, for putting on a great Canada Day event. It was a wonderful event at Hilda Even Park. Personally, for myself, I really enjoyed having it at the park. I just felt there was a lot of extra space there for all sorts of activities. I know that Laura and Joe and the team there really did a bang bang up job this year. It was very well attended. The weather was off and on actually wonderful because it wasn't too hot. But yeah, it was just a great time had by all, lots of family fun, and I really appreciated all the work that went into that. So just a thank you to them. And then also just wanted to remind the community members that this coming weekend is our annual Riverboat Days Festival. So there is a whole schedule of events that will be happening. It is small town summer. So Friday the carnival will start. There's a parade downtown at 6 p.m. There'll be a street dance and live music from 7:30 onward with food trucks. There should be some bonfires. Sounds like there is a patio extension. There will be fireworks at the Slave Lake Airport at dusk on Friday. And then events will continue through Saturday as well with the pancake breakfast, farmers market, food trucks, all sorts of sales and specials happening down Main Street at our local businesses. And then Sunday, the carnival will continue till 7 p.m. There's also a drive-in movie. It's a family movie early at 6 and then a date night movie at 9 p.m. as well. So a few new additions this year that I am personally really looking forward to. This weekend is one of my favorites. It's a great opportunity for local businesses to kind of showcase what they have and get the residents and tourists that we have to our community out and seeing what we have to offer in Slave Lake. So I hope everyone goes out for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for Save the Lake? Fantastic. Counselor Graham,
Motion to adjourn.
motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? And we are adjourned.